Season 41, War number 5, and we are up against DSVG. This time around my team will be Tigra, Jabari Panther and Absorbing Man. So now having a quick test run with Absorbing Man before, he's finally getting full-on action this time around. I'm taking path 6 in section 1, as well as that Sersi on the hazard shift node, and then I'm taking path 9 in section 2, as well as that Spot and Hulkling on the shared fights. Then I'm also taking all the right side mini-bosses, as well as that Absorbing Man boss. Now the boss fight I have already uploaded separately, since it was a boss that I hadn't taken before with Tigra, so that is now in the playlist. So you've probably seen it already by now. Anyways, up first we have a Galan on the spiked armor and combat deja vu prowess nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra. I am using an invulnerability boost here simply because the next fight is the one that I actually need it for, but might as well put it on now since this one is gonna be a quick one anyways. All I really need to do is just bait Galan special 1s, punish them with my heavy, and then drop big special 2s. Since he can't trigger the physical resistance buffs from spiked armor, he's never gonna be able to reflect any damage back to me, and this fight goes down very quickly with barely any health loss. Normally he would be getting buffs left and right here, which would be a problem, because he would then trigger the harvest, but with a neutralized champion like Tigra, that is not an issue. Then we have a Mephisto on the aggression prowess and critical setup nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra. Now this one wasn't a great assignment, I just kinda had to take this because we couldn't fit my own team for another path, so since I have taken this matchup before, I'm pretty confident in it, so I decided to go for it. I am gonna take a bunch of incinerate damage, but that's alright, as long as I don't eat any specials with a lot of prowess on the opponent, it should be just fine. Now I messed up my first special 2 here and hit the first part of it into his block. For some reason, not really sure why I did that, but it's not really a problem. Unfortunately I did lose my senses here, which, well, made things a little bit more interesting to say the least. We got a bunch of prowess while waiting around, and yeah, that could have been a lot worse. The reason why I used the invulnerability there was because if he got very good RNG on the auras, he would have been at a special 3, and with the prowess node that would be an instant kill if I didn't have a safety net. All in all, I wouldn't really recommend taking Mephistos with Tigra, but it works if you need it to work. Then we have a Sersi on the hazard shift, incinerate and shock nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Absorbing Man, and I do also have Odin's protection pre-fight here, just to make things a little bit safer for me for the rest of the war. Pre-fight isn't necessary, but since this was the first war I'm using Absorbing Man properly, I felt that it was nice to have. Now with the magma form to start up with, I am immune to incinerate debuffs, and whenever I would trigger one on me, I will pause my magma form, and then I will also have huge energy resistance, which will allow me to deal with the shock debuffs on the shock mode as well. So while I'm not immune to the debuffs, I barely take any damage from them, and I just basically heal from willpower. Now the plan here was to simply spam special 2s and nuke her down, but MD got a little crazy here, which was unfortunate, so instead of getting to my special 2, I shot up straight to a special 3 there. It's not an issue by any means, it just makes the fight take a little bit longer than it probably should. This special 2 landed just fine, but Sersi had her glancing buff up, so the damage was heavily reduced, and all the regen buffs shot me back up to special 3 once again. MD5 is usually something that I can manage pretty well, but against matchup like these there's just no way around it really. But all it really does is just waste a little bit of time, and that's about it. It keeps my magma form refined, and that is basically all I need to do here to be able to solo this fight. No risk of dying there unless I started eating specials with the prowesses up and all that. All in all, I'm very happy with how that Absorbing Man fight went. I was a little bit nervous going in since, like I said, this is basically my first time using him properly. Next up we have a spot on the Hazard Shift Shock and Bleed nodes as well as the Conflictor node, and I'm taking this fight with Absorbing Man starting in the Uru form. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. In this form, Absorbing Man gains a ton of physical resistance, which is basically what you want against Spot, because all the rupture and burst damage he does is all physical, so if you mess up or get hit or anything like that, the damage is gonna be heavily reduced. The form also makes you completely immune to Shock and Bleed, which is perfect for this node. You can just use the Hazard Shift debuffs to keep your form paused, and that's all there really is to it. The plan is to just spam special once and hit the opponent until he falls. Now unfortunately here I did drop my form just before I got my special one off again, so I couldn't refine the form, but that's fine. All it does is waste some time. As long as I can keep the form up and not die from the Hazard Shift debuffs, I'm happy with that. Now with that special too, he got enough spots to trigger the untouchable, so I went in the middle of the special animation to try and hit him to trigger the untouchable mid-special animation, and then backed out before he could hit me. That allowed the untouchable timer to completely tick over during the special animation, so I wouldn't have to waste time dancing around after the special, waiting for the untouchable to end. So if you can get the timing down on that, it makes Spot a lot faster and easier to fight against, for the most part. One more special one, and down he goes, about a minute and a half, which is a decent fight. Could have been a lot faster if I didn't mess up the first special one there, but I am happy with that. Barely lost any HP as well. Next up we have an America Chavez on the Hazard Shift Shock and Bleed nodes as well as the When I Open node, and I'm taking this fight with Absorbing Man using the Uru pre-fight again. Now I know that I don't need to use the pre-fight here again, since the one you use becomes its new default, and since I used this on the last fight, it should default to that one for this fight as well, but at this point I didn't completely trust it, so I just put it on anyways just in case. Now the plan here is once again to just hit the opponent until they fall, and then just spam special once to keep the Uru form up for the whole fight. Ideally, America Chavez wouldn't get to a special 3, and well, she did, but that's the exact reason why I used an invulnerability boost here. Now, doesn't completely save me though. She now triggers all of her dimensions, so she has damage reflect as well, but that's alright. As long as I can keep the Uru form up and not die from the Hazard Shift debuffs, this fight should go down without any bigger issues. Now that being said, I make a stupid mistake here. I parry her and go in for some combo hits, and due to When I Open, I basically nuke down half of my own HP, and that was dumb. There was no reason to do that. I wasn't in any rush to get my form paused or refined again, but well, I don't usually take this path. I kinda just forgot about the node when I did it, and it cost me a bunch of potions. Luckily it didn't cost a death though. That could have been bad. Then after healing up here real quick, we have a Weapon X on the Hazard Shift Shock and Bleed as well as Nerves of Steel nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Absorbing Man once again in the Uru form to make me immune to Shock and Bleed. Game plan here is to just once again hit the opponent until they die, and then just spam special once to keep the Uru form refined the entire fight. Not necessarily even refined, as long as I can just keep it up, that's fine by me. I'm not in any rush to finish these fights, although speed is also appreciated. Now, Absorbing Man for this fight is probably not the most ideal counter, but I figured that since Weapon X does not regen from burst damage, this should work just fine. he only regens from heat damage, so about half of Absorbing Man's damage will get mitigated by the regen, but all the burst is unaffected. Now, also being immune to bleed here is very good. Just for this reason, Weapon X being fully unblockable means that it's very easy to mess up and get clipped. But in Uru form, you have the physical resistance as well as the bleed immunity to basically negate anything that Weapon X would do to you. I did also have the invulnerability boost still up from the previous fight, which did come in handy, but even without that, I was in no risk of dying there. Might have had to use a potion or two once again, but that's fine. As long as it's not a death, I'm completely fine with it. Gotta speed things up a little bit here. I have a teammate go and place a pre-fight for me on the next fight, so that I can have more buffs than the defender, since it's the Rich Get Richer node. A node in pre-fight is appreciated for this one, though it's not needed. So, next up we have this Hulkling here on the Rich Get Richer and Aspect of Evolution nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra. And I have Odin's Aptitude and Shock Resistance pre-fights here for me. The pre-fights don't do anything to Tigra except just count as unique buffs for the Rich Get Richer node, so I can have the power gain from it, well, for the most part at least. Since this node does have the Aspect of Evolution node, some of those buffs do slip through the neutralize, so we were tied there for a bit, meaning neither of us was gaining power. Now I did get clipped at the start, which was unfortunate. I don't know what it is, I'm just playing pretty bad against Hulkling lately. But all that really did was once again cost me a potion, and then I got pushed to a special 3 due to Mystic Dispersion. Not really an issue, costs a little bit of time and just makes my specials hit harder for the rest of the fight, though it wasn't really necessary. 2 special 2s and that Hulkling would have dropped dead anyways. I'm once again waiting here for a teammate to move up a bit to save some energy for myself, because I have been spending a ton of units on all of these energy refills to get my fights done in preferably a single set of boosts, because buying energy is cheaper than buying boosts. Now that being said, this fight right here is a bishop on the safeguard miniboss node, and I'm taking it with Tigra. And I used an advanced power boost there to start the fight with a bar of power. Then I'm gonna be baiting 2 heavy attacks, punishing them with my heavy to get to my special 2 quickly. I'm gonna drop that and see how it goes from there. A single special 2 will not be enough to take down bishop, especially on this node, but it's gonna do some nice damage. After this I just go back to baiting heavy attacks. I do not want to bait a special 1 from this guy, due to all the Incinerate CDLs. And right there for the heavy, I think I released my own heavy a little bit too early, and that put me closer to him right when he fired off that shot on his heavy attack, and I got clipped by it, which was annoying. Luckily it didn't really do anything else, and he doesn't have any effects on the heavy, but yeah, not a clean fight either. Next up we have an Annihilus on the Stunning Reflection and Polka Dot Power miniboss node, and I'm taking this fight with Absorbing Man. And since this is the Polka Dot Power node, I can't gain power normally, but you can still gain power from Mystic Dispersion. So my game plan was to block some hits to get the Stifle debuffs, then Dex to trigger Unstoppable on Annihilus, and use that to feed my own power. I wanted to get to my special 3 to get fully ramped up early on, and before I actually throw the special 3, I wanted to get rid of the flourish buffs on Annihilus so that he wouldn't get the special 3 here, but I couldn't do that, he was being too aggressive, so I just had to go for it. I don't have an invulnerability boost on, so all my faith is in Absorbing Man's resistances and the special 3 defense boost that I believe I still had on. To my surprise, the special 3 does close to nothing. Not really sure how, but I'm not complaining. And then I got those 10 stifle debuffs on me, so I figured I just takes a few times to trigger the unstoppables, get my special one with MD, and then just drop those. 3 of those special ones is enough to completely nuke this guy down, and that was very satisfying. I had never seen the matchup done before, I didn't watch any videos beforehand, so that came as a little bit of a surprise how hard he hit. But I am starting to really like this guy. Next up we have a Doctor Doom on the Brute Force mini-boss node, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra. Now I had a teammate place the Mr. Fantastic's Petrify pre-fight here, so that I can completely avoid Doctor Doom's aura on the special one, making this fight very easy for Tigra. The only thing I need to keep an eye on is the debuff timer on the Petrify and make sure I keep knocking him down to refresh the debuff before it falls off. As long as I can do that, this fight is very simple for Tigra. And that's about it. I'm just gonna be baiting special ones over and over again, punishing them with my heavy attack, dropping my big special 2, and that's about it. Single special 2 will not be enough since Doom is very tanky, but it's gonna get close. I could have just chained in a special 1 there and it probably would have finished him off, but I wasn't too confident in it, so I decided to bait another special 1 instead. And it caused me to take some degen damage from Brute Force, but that's alright. Once again, it's just a potion, I can buy those with loyalty. But it would be pretty nice to have a clean war every now and then, so that I wouldn't have to use any potions. But it is what it is. You pay for your mistakes. Anyways, on to the final fight of this war, an Absorbing Man boss that I'm taking with Tigra, and I do have Mr. Fantastic's Petrify and Suppression debuffs here as well. Petrify itself doesn't really do anything here for me, but Suppression allows me to get my special 2 before he gets to his special 1. To start the fight, I go for some heavy counters with my heavy to build up ruptures and get to my special 2 faster. Then when I get to my special 2, I bait and punish the special 1 from Absorbing Man with my heavy to deactivate his forms, so that he loses his physical resistance, which basically allows my special 2 to completely nuke him. I got a lot of power back from the Huntress Sense as well as MD5 due to Jabari's energy nullifying the resistance buffs. Got quickly back up the second special 2. He's almost dead. Just a couple special ones here to finish him off, and he didn't really get to do anything. Now, if he hadn't dexed the first 3 hits of my first special 2 there, the fight would have been over in 2 special 2s in around 30 seconds or so. Unfortunately did not get the perfect solo there, but it was still very clean and Tigra is an amazing option for it. Now one thing to note here before I end this video is that I did not use a Mystic Power Boost there, because I brought the Jabari Panther Synergy, which allows Tigra to nullify buffs on the opponent on every unblockable hit of her specials. That is up to 3 buffs on the special 2, and with MD5, if you nullify 3 buffs, you get a bar of power back. So that combined with the Huntress Sense, giving you power for every rupture you trigger, your power gain is insane. So having the Mystic Power Boost on top of all that might have been too much. I did not want to risk it. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 10-2. Another great war from us.